Hey all. So today we're going to be looking at D3.3, which is homeostasis. And the questions we're going to be focused on are how are constant internal conditions maintained in humans? And then also what are the benefits to organisms of maintaining constant internal conditions? So we want to be focusing on continuity and change in these slides. How are things staying the same? And then also how are they differing in the process of homeostasis? Pages we're going to be looking at are 721 to 728. So firstly, homeostasis is the process of keeping cells functioning as close to optimal conditions. So constant internal conditions would be the process of homeostasis. And that is going to focus on temperature, water levels, pH, blood glucose levels. So how is our body maintaining those things so that our cells can function optimally? The environment is controlled, the environment that is controlled is the fluids in and surrounding the cells. So that's going to be stuff related to tissue fluid, blood and plasma, surrounding structural components, i.e. the cell wall. And there's going to be a number of feedback loops occurring in our bodies in order to maintain that. And so a positive feedback loop increases the gap towards a new equilibrium. So typically positive feedback loops don't happen that frequently in humans, in living organisms. In the case of humans, for example, or mammals, a positive feedback loop would be giving birth. So a new equilibrium would be that the baby is born. But typically when we're thinking about homeostasis, we're thinking about negative feedback loops. So they're going to restore the situation to its original level. So they're trying to keep the internal conditions stable. This takes a lot of energy, but it's very useful to provide functionality to the body, especially in extreme environmental conditions, and additionally, so that cells can function in one efficient way if our bodies can maintain a constant internal environment. And so here we can see a negative feedback loop relating to body temperature. And so if you are too hot, you're going to start sweating, and then your body is going to cool back down, and then you'll stop sweating. Or if you get too cold, you're going to start shivering and your body temperature will increase and you're going to stop shivering. So one thing that is maintained in our body is blood glucose levels. This is controlled by our pancreas, and the pancreas has two different types of cells in the islets of Langerhans. And so our blood glucose level is usually maintained at about 5 millimoles per liter. The islets of Langerhans have two cell types, alpha and beta cells, but then they also have a variety of other cells which are related to exocrine glands that are typically used for digestion. The alpha and beta cells associated with the islets of Langerhans are endocrine cells. So they're going to secrete into the bloodstream, whereas exocrine glands will secrete into organs. Sorry, that was a total blank there for a second. If blood glucose is high after, and so what I mean by they're going to secrete to organs like via ducts. So our pancreatic duct squirts exocrine digestive juice into the intestines. So if blood glucose is high after a big meal or lots of digestion, insulin is going to be released from the beta cells in the pancreas, and that is going to signal to the cells to pick up glucose from the bloodstream. So I'm going to move my head here so you can see that. So insulin is going to send a signal to the liver and say, hey, as well as other body cells through the bloodstream, and they're going to start picking up sugar, glucose from the bloodstream. And then the blood glucose levels are going to decline, and that's maintaining homeostasis. If blood glucose is too low, alpha cells of the pancreas are going to release glucagon. So that might be after you wake up in the morning, and they're going to release glucagon, and that signals that glucose be released from the liver's storage to the bloodstream. So glucose is being added to the bloodstream. In a situation called diabetes, which is a health condition, a person has consistently high blood glucose levels. So there's two types we'll look at on the next slide. but they will have high blood glucose levels even if they're going through prolonged fasting. So for some reason, their cells are not picking up the blood glucose properly. And this can result in damaged tissues, can result in reduced water absorption, damaged kidneys as well. And the earlier symptoms of diabetes are going to be constant peeing, tired, and always thirsty. So that's kind of a weird combo, that you're always thirsty, but you're constantly peeing. So type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disorder. And what ends up happening is that the beta cells are attacked by your immune system. And because of that, your immune system kills them off and they can no longer make insulin. This usually happens when you're young, and suddenly it can sometimes be triggered by a really serious sickness. And this is going to be treated with an insulin pump or injections previously. But scientists are working to try to create a stem cell solution to beta cell death. The problem remains, though, that if you inject beta stem cells or pancreatic stem cells into a human body that is already primed for an autoimmune disease, how do we prevent the immune system from killing off the new beta cells? And then type 2 diabetes, this is when your cells stop responding to your insulin signal because of a deficiency of insulin receptors or glucose transporters on the cells. So this happens later into adulthood. Typically in your 30s or 40s, dependent on lifestyle. So this is caused by unhealthy eating and lack of exercise. And what ends up happening is that even though your body is still sending an insulin signal, your cells have become resistant to it because of how you've been eating previously. So the way that this is treated is with small, frequent meals, strenuous exercise, although this could just be as much as walking 30 minutes twice a day, and weightlifting. And so this is actually pretty easily treated as long as you're not super dedicated to being a couch potato. All right, so thermoregulation is another aspect of homeostasis. So how are we controlling the temperatures in our body? So negative feedback mechanisms are going to maintain this. For humans, our body temperature is regulated at 36 to 37 degrees Celsius. And there are cold and warm thermoreceptors at nerve endings that detect temperatures. And there's peripheral ones on the skin, and then there's central core body ones as well. And those are connected to a part of the brain called the hypothalamus. And so this is going to regulate vasoconstriction, which means blood tube constriction, or dilation, which means opening, shivering, sweating, hair standing up, which, you would be useful if we hadn't hair like monkeys do, but we don't. So hair standing up is not going to be very useful for maintaining warmth. And then uncoupled respiration. This is important in small mammals. So what uncoupled respiration is where brown fat cells have mitochondria, and those mitochondria actually make heat for the body, not ATP. And so this uncoupled respiration is a useful tool for small mammals to keep themselves warm in cold conditions. The hypothalamus regulates a lot of the body systems. It releases TRH, which is thyrotropin releasing hormone, which passes to the pituitary gland, also in the brain. This is a very important area for a variety of hormonal signals. And the pituitary gland will then signal using the hormone thyroid stimulating hormone, which then produces thyroxine from the thyroid gland, and the thyroid gland maintains metabolism. So that's going to look like, how is your body staying warm? And additionally, how much energy is being used and how much digestion is happening. So to summarize, homeostasis is regulating optimal body conditions using negative feedback loops, blood glucose levels, I'm trying to move my face here. Blood glucose levels regulated by the pancreas using the hormones insulin and glucagon. Type 1 diabetes means you have no insulin because of autoimmune disease. Type 2 diabetes, your cells are not responding to the insulin signal because of an unhealthy lifestyle. And then thermoregulation is detected by the hypothalamus from sensors and can allow blood vessels to constrict or dilate. Can allow you to sweat or shiver to maintain body temperature. And thyroxine is going to be released from the thyroid gland, which allows the regulation of metabolism. Just a quick note about vasoconstriction or dilation. If you're cold, your blood vessels are going to constrict, and that reduces the amount of blood flow, especially at the surface of the skin. And as a byproduct of that, less heat is going to be lost through the surface of the skin. If you're very hot, you're going to have your blood vessels dilate, and that means there's more blood flowing to the surface of the skin. And so we know this because when our blood vessels are dilated, we look flushed, meaning we're going to look much pinker, and that's because all of that those blood vessels are dilated and blood is close to the surface of our skin. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. And